felt like people that did heroin or opiates or something like that were on a very short road to death. That was my perception when I was a kid. And then I had a friend who was a longshoreman. They worked on the docks. They would bring fish in and fillet the fish for the market. And he worked with a guy that every day at lunch, the guy would go cop. He would get his heroin. He would shoot it up in his car, and then he'd go back to work. And I was like, he'd go back to work? And you're like, yep, he worked every day. Like, every day he shot up, and every day he worked. Like, yeah. He was never late. Nope. Just did his work. Like,
right.
Wow. Well, I didn't think you could do that. I thought you did heroin. The next thing you know, you'd just be on the floor in a fetal position in your own urine, and you just would fall apart and die.
Right. Yeah, there's this idea that people sometimes refer to as pharmacological determinism, that a certain drug has to do a certain thing. So alcohol has to sedate and disinhibit you. Heroin has to addict you and make you a slave to it and kill you. Cocaine has to be a euphoric thing that's done at parties that's also very addictive. PCP has to make you strip nude and run around
fighting cops.
Compton, fighting cops and punching holes in wooden fences. But when you look at this, anthropologists have looked at certain drugs that are used cross-culturally, like alcohol. And what you find is this whole idea of pharmacological determinism is fundamentally flawed. Drugs behave differently in different cultures, depending on the set and setting of the user. And so you find all sorts of instances that are major exceptions to these rules that we've set up for these various drugs. For example, PCP, which is arguably one of the most ubiquitously maligned drugs in the world. I mean, no one can imagine that PCP is medicinal, but even to this day, PCP is in Schedule 2, not Schedule 1 like cannabis and LSD. Schedule 2, it can still be prescribed, actually, and that's because it had a history of medicinal use. There was even PCP psychotherapy in the UK in the 50s. So this is something that most people wouldn't believe, but to those patients that were taking it then, there was none of this cultural association with PCP being a drug that causes psychosis or makes you strip nude. It was simply another tool for a psychiatrist to use and help people release repressed memories or traumas that they were afraid to talk about when sober.
Well, we're seeing that now with MDMA, right? I mean,